So there are many different definitions of what overlanding actually is, but pretty much all of them include spending at least some sort of time out in the wilderness. Today we're going to talk about three of the most popular forms of shelter. We've got a ground tent, a rooftop tent, and some sort of trailer or anything like that, a camper or like an off-road trailer. Let's get to it. So as I said in the intro, today we're going to be talking about the three most common types of shelter for overlanding. We're going to look at ground tents, rooftop tents, and some sort of camper or trailer. Now, yes, there's way more options. We've got at the bottom end, basically just using a hammock, all the way up to the, I don't even know how much they are, $1 million plus earth roamers, totally built out rigs like that. Trying not to make this a 4-hour video, so we're not going to talk about those today. But if you'd like to see that, put it in the comments down below and I'll do some more research because it's going to be a long time before I can get an earth roamer. Also, I'd really like you to just watch through the whole video, see what I've got to say on this, but then in the comments down below, I want you to put three things. Number one, what are you currently using? Number two, why did you choose that? And number three, is there something that you are maybe saving for or looking forward to in the future that's going to align with whatever type of overlanding you do? Let me know why that is. So throw that in the comments down below after you watch through and see everything we've got to say. We're gonna start off with ground tents. Now, I think there's a lot of different reasons why somebody wants a ground tent, and I think the pros are they're easy. A lot of people already have them, or your family has them, your grandparents, whatever. You can put them in any kind of vehicle and go anywhere you want to with them. You don't have to have any sort of special equipment to do it. Just pitch a tent. Also, you don't have to get your vehicle to a certain spot. So if you want to camp down by a river or a spot with a great view of a mountain or something like that, but you can't get your vehicle there, you can just carry your tent down and put it there. Also, if you're on something like a motorcycle or even a bicycle, you can take a tent, throw it in there on your saddlebags or whatever. You're good to go. Also, they're relatively inexpensive. Now, you can spend tons and tons of money, but you could also walk into Walmart and buy a cheap tent if this is something you're just getting into. So, lots of good things with a ground tent. Also, some cons to it. Number one con is that wherever you put your tent, that's what you're sleeping on. So, this spot's pretty good. So, the elements. We put up this pop-up canopy last night over top of it. Yes, it has a rain fly, but this does more. It worked out pretty well in the rain. I don't think they got too wet, but anything on the ground could be coming in there as well. Also, you're somewhat limited on space. Yes, there are lots of tents that are bigger, but it all depends on what you want to spend your money on. So a tent is a great option, but has some drawbacks to it. All right, now let's talk about rooftop tents. These have a lot of great options as well. There's soft covers like this, like the canvas cover. There's the hard plastic covers. There's the full like alu cab that turns the whole bed of your truck into kind of a built-in camper. I'm gonna put those all in the same sort of category. You know, maybe the whole, like the full camper shell that's actually that could actually go in here too, because I think they all have the same benefits, and it's all contained into one vehicle. Anywhere you can get this truck, you have this tent, you have whatever you have built into here. That's gonna be one of the downsides coming up, but you have it all self-contained in here. Also, it solves part of the problem with the ground tent because it doesn't matter what you park on. This could be rocky, this could be full of roots, this could be, you could park this in a swamp. Might have trouble getting your truck out in the morning, but it doesn't matter. It's going to be the same exact experience up there as long as you get it level. It doesn't matter if it's raining, it doesn't matter whatever is going on the ground. You don't have to worry about waking up cuddling with snakes in the middle of the night. And that is, for me, the biggest selling point on a rooftop tent is that it's controlled. It's a controlled environment up there, and I think they look pretty cool. So that's the big thing. Also, like I said, like I was hinting at, anywhere you can get your vehicle, you can get a rooftop tent. So you don't have to worry about, is the spot big enough? Is the trail wide enough? I know there's been a lot of trails I've been on that if I had a trailer with me, it would have been miserable if we could have even gotten through there. So I think that's another big reason why rooftop tents are so popular. There are way more cons though to a rooftop tent than there are pros. And the longer I think about this, the more I come up with them. Number one, maybe this isn't in any order, but the first one that came to mind was cost. These tents are ridiculously expensive. They're all, as far as I know, over $1,000, and you can pay upwards of $15,000 to $20,000 for a full alu cab built out thing. The truck bed campers, I'm sure, are even more expensive when it's all finally said and done. Also, here, depending on what kind of vehicle you have, you may have to get a new vehicle if it can't accept a tent. Here I had to put a rack on, which I'm glad I did. I think it did a really good job. It gave me a lot of extra spots that I can put things, and it just helps to get everything out of the bed of my truck so I can put other things in there. I need to work on becoming a minimalist, but that's not happening today. Also, with talking about getting a rack like this also affects your center of gravity. The more stuff you have higher up, the more likely you are to tip. So if you're on some really gnarly trails, some of the things I've seen out in like Moab, people with Jeeps and stuff, I've seen them roll their Jeeps and their stock. So if you start sticking a ton of weight on top, you're even more top heavy. Also, going through narrow trails, you're more likely to get things caught on there. That's how that damage happened up there. That was before I got it, but somebody went through a trail, caught a tree branch on there, and ripped their tent. So other things, you're limited on space. You're fairly limited in the blueprint of these tents. Ground tents, they can get much bigger. I mean, you could get a whole freaking army tent if you wanted to and carry that around. This, you're pretty much limited to the footprint of your vehicle. Not a big deal if it's only two, maybe a small kid for a third. If you got a dog or something like that, it works out great. My wife and I, plenty of room up here. My wife and I, 2 kids, they're getting bigger every day. Wasn't too bad when they were babies, but now that they're getting, I mean, 1 and 2, and they're still already starting to encroach on our space up there. So that's another downside with it. You don't have as much protection as you would in some sort of like a camper. So in the cold, in the rain, anything like that. Luckily, we haven't had issues with rain, but if it's really cold or windy or a tree branch comes down or anything like that, you are not as well protected as you are in a camper. So I guess let's move over there and talk about campers. Now, before we move on to our third and final option, this trailer right behind me, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the little notification bell. It does a couple things. Number one, it makes sure that you don't miss any of the content that comes out. Also, it shows the YouTube that you guys are liking this and that they should push it to more people. So that helps in a couple ways. Number one, more people get exposed to this and they get the information. It also helps to grow the channel. The more people that watch, the more support we get, the more videos I'm able to put out, and the better this is able to be. So subscribing helps you and it helps me to grow the channel. Let's get to this one now. Before we start, this is not my camper. This is my in-laws. They let us borrow it for the weekend because the high today is 45 and I didn't want to sleep in a tent. It's got propane, it's got heat, it's got power. It's great. Now, I will say this is just going to be a stand-in for all campers, all trailers. There are stuff like this that's a more like a dedicated camper like you'd see in a campground. This is only 16 feet though. I mean, some of the longer ones, there's no way you get them through any trails. There are also some that this has just like a leaf spring for a suspension. There are some off-road trailers that are purpose-built for that. They've got independent suspension, they've got off-road tires, they are built rugged, meant to go down some crazy trails. So that may be a little bit different than this, but I think a lot of stuff is going to be the same across the board. The pros here, you have a ton of extra space. This one, there's a kitchen inside, there's a queen bed and 2 twin bunk beds, or 1 set of bunk beds, I guess, 2 twin beds. There's a bathroom, there's a shower. We've got an awning. It was raining last night when we got into camp. Put the awning out and we were able to just stand underneath there and it was perfect. I didn't have to worry about trying to get into my tent, all that. Everything's contained in here, which is what I really like about it. Also, like I said, with the rooftop tent, we're starting to outgrow it. So with the family, there's a lot more space in here. We can each have our own bed. It didn't actually happen. They climbed in bed with us, but we have the opportunity to have our own beds. And as the kids get bigger, I think this is going to be something we're going to have to look at picking up for ourselves. Other things that I really like about this is you can leave it. So we're at a campground in northern Michigan with some college friends. We know we're going to be here all weekend, but we want to go off on excursions. Right now, a group's over doing some wine tasting right now. And if we had a rooftop tent, we would have had to pack everything up. Notice the rooftop tent isn't even open right now because it's kind of a pain in the butt sometimes to pack it away and everything just to go out and hit some trails or anything like that. Here, just unhitch it and you're good to go. Camp stays here, didn't have to roll up the awning, didn't have to put away the food and any of that stuff. And if you're in a cool spot, this marks your spot so nobody else comes and takes it. Now, the cons for a trailer like this, number one for me is size. Like I said, with the rooftop tent, anywhere I can get the truck, I can sleep. There's a lot of places you can't get a trailer like this. It doesn't matter how small of a trailer it is. There's a lot of trails, really tight turns, you got to back in and everything like that. I'm pretty good with a trailer and there's a lot of spots I couldn't get one. Now, obviously smaller is easier to get places. Another big con for me is the effect on gas mileage. Not so much for the money side of it, but the range. Normally I'm getting 17, 18 miles a gallon average with my truck. Pulling this up here, I was getting 9. So that basically cut my range in half. So if you're in an area that doesn't have a lot of gas stations, that's something you really need to think about if you're going to be able to cut your range in half and still get where you're going to go. I think if you're somebody that likes to go to one spot for a while, a trailer, some sort of camper, that's going to be perfect for you. If you want the flexibility to just go in, spend the night, pack up and move, then a ground tent or a rooftop tent is going to be a lot better of an option for you. That being said, check out this video right here to see how we used our rooftop tent on our week-long adventure this past summer.